Hey everyone.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey.
Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday. Hello to all our wonderful commenters who are already crowding the comment box.
Yes, how excellent to see everyone.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one today because this is just, for me, this is the big one, right? This is the Wii Spa is the most important story I think that has happened yet. Well, actually, that's probably wrong. I think the Tavistock is the most important story that's happened yet, but the Wii Spa is the most important story on this aspect of safeguarding that we've had. So let's begin just by assuming that people don't know the full details. Artie, would you like to take people back to the beginning and tell them why we're here today?
Yeah, sure. Well, what was it? I think it was in June where there was a video that emerged on the internet and that went viral of a woman complaining to the management at Wii Spa, which is a spa in downtown Los Angeles, California, where women and girls are separate from men and boys, and they have their clothing-free spaces. So the woman was angry and screaming that there was a man in the women's area and that there were women and girls naked and frightened because the man has exposed himself to everyone. And the management said there's nothing we can do because of this person's sexual orientation. What they meant was that because he identified as a trans woman, that meant that he was now legally a woman because of who is the governor of California, Gavin?
Don't know. Shoot, I should have found that out. That would have been some good.
I forgot his name. The guy who used to be the mayor of California, mayor of San Francisco.
Someone will help us out in a sec with that.
Yeah. One. Hurry up, commenters.
Save us, get us out of this job. Okay.
Anyway, so yeah, the law now basically self-ID is the law in California. They said there's nothing we could do. Gavin Newsom, thank you. Okay. Yeah, there was a jerk douchebag on the video telling the woman that she was being wrong. A dick. Yeah, he called her a dick because a trans woman is allowed to expose their penis to women and girls, apparently. So the whole thing was crazy.
Let's not forget as well, a trans woman is allowed to watch women and girls. That's the aspect that people sometimes forget. Yeah. You know? But anyway, let's keep going.
And then the liberal media decided, first, it was so funny. First, they said, yes, there's nothing wrong with this, of course. And then there's nothing wrong with a male person who identifies as a woman exposing themselves. And that didn't go very well. So then they turned around and said, oh, of course there's something wrong with it. But it never happened. The whole thing was a transphobic hoax, which is insane, completely fucking insane. So here we are a few months later, Andy Ngo, I don't know if I pronounced that right, it's Vietnamese last name.
I think that's. I don't think there's very many versions of how that could be. How that could be spelt or pronounced. Andy Ngo, right?
No, yeah.
Or Andy Ngo.
I think it's just no, yeah. But anyways, so he did some digging, contacted the LAPD or the LA County Police rather, and they found out they had quietly filed charges. They had spoken to people. There are 4 adult women and 1 girl who corroborated that he was there, he was naked, and he was partially erect. And it turns out this guy, his name is Darren, not a woman's name at all, is a registered sex offender. He has been convicted of indecent exposure multiple times over decades, from as early as 2002 to as recently as 2018, as well as a spate of other convictions, another sexual offense that we don't know what it is yet, and burglary and escape, which I think means escape from confinement or escape from prison. So this is a career criminal, lifelong dangerous criminal who has been committing indecent exposure forever and who is on the lam, essentially, is wanted by the police and is saying he's going to turn himself in. Yeah, it's just an obvious man who's just using the law to expose himself to girls and women.
Yeah, so he's also, I believe, a tier 1 sex offender. So unless 10 is the worst and 1 is the best, I think that means he's like probably the worst. I don't know.
I think that means you don't get your record expunged over time. It's a lifelong record or something like that.
Yeah. So okay, so let's so essentially the most important aspect to this is that it is proved what we all knew to be true and didn't need the proof for, But apparently, people like Owen Jones and Laurie Penny and The Guardian and all these liberals, or so-called liberals, they needed the proof of this, which is that self-ID will allow predatory men to enter into women's spaces. It goes right into the heart of the Stanland question that Helen has been asking and getting nothing but abuse for the last year or so. It is absolute proof that what we were saying was right. We have been completely vindicated. And yet, there are still people out there who are doubling down, who are trying to pretend it doesn't matter, who are just blowing all sorts of smoke. Helen, what have you? Have you seen?
I want to. So first of all, because you mentioned Laurie Penny, what is quite interesting, changing their position. Absolutely not. I've been told that the person who was the subject of the original complaint at Wii Spa is in fact an actual sexual predator. If that's true, that person is a disgrace. It doesn't change my position on trans rights. It shouldn't change a position on trans rights, but what it should change a position in is what rights do you think that male-born people should have? But she carries on to say, the reason it doesn't change my position is that restricting the rights of an entire category of people on the basis that one of them might commit a crime is the essence of prejudice. So it turns out that actually somebody who has written books, actual books on feminism, and now has another book on feminism to sell, is saying, yep, actually, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This is the person who said girls shouldn't look. If the little girl shouldn't look, and now it's like, yeah, it doesn't change my position at all on trans rights. But
unbelievable.
Yes,
may I also say, Helen, that the essence of prejudice has been keeping women safe for hundreds of years, because the essence of prejudice is what keeps men out of women's spaces. It is not prejudice,
word, isn't it? It's a word
not prejudice to trans women. It's prejudice to men, and it's an entirely legitimate form because it is self-defense. Sorry, Helen.
Well, it's not prejudice. It's not prejudice in a way that it's sort of evidence-free. It's simple. We have evidence, and we have created societal rules accordingly. And trans activists, as we well know, are just trying to break down these rules, break down the barriers, break through women's boundaries, and they are still justifying it. Not everyone is justifying it. I note an absence, which is probably the right thing to do. If I was in their position, there's lots of people who are just ignoring it. Absence of commentary at all.
Yeah. But can I go back to something you said? Or it was something you were quoting, Laurie.
Penny,
Penny, thank you. Oh, I'll never remember. She said a discrimination against an entire category of people. Trans is no longer a useful category of people. Male is a category of people that is useful, that has substance to it, that can tell you a lot about these people demographically and statistically and the likelihood of behavior. Trans has none of that. Trans is just a random label that anyone can slap on themselves. It is absolutely denotes nothing whatsoever. This is where she's such a fucking idiot, because how can you say that there's an entire category of people that's having all these problems and all this discrimination and needs all these special rules when this category it's not a category. It's nothing. Yeah.
That's great.
I had this precise argument with somebody just I don't know, last night or something. They were saying, look, here's proof that 50% of transgender Australians have attempted suicide. Now, the only reply that you can say to that is, are you completely stupid? Of course this isn't the case. Of course it isn't the case that anyone who says I'm non-binary, I'm trans, who doesn't, of course this isn't true. And when you look at this study, then of course you see that it's only 900 people, and they were all recruited from the same Facebook page, which is like trans health. So it's very self-selecting. But the point is that trans just doesn't have a category. Of course, 50% of people who just call themselves trans, because that's all you need to do is call yourself trans, have not attempted suicide. It's an insanely stupid thing to say and to believe, and nobody can believe it. Surely.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there are some things you can sort of garner out of somebody calling themselves trans. You just say there's a high likelihood that they're middle class, you know, because it's mostly very privileged people doing this. You could also say there's a high likelihood that they're narcissistic because it's a very entitled thing to do, you know. So in some senses, it's a useful category.
But I think it's something I noticed. People have been very nice in talking about the Times interview with me today, which I was very happy about. Thank you so much to the journalist for giving me a chance to actually put my position. I really appreciate it, and thanks to all the lovely commenters underneath the post. But one thing I did notice though was that during the interview, the use of there is a kind of accepted use of the word trans. Whereas we know, of course, there's no stable definition. And whoever uses the word trans is imagining something different depending on who it is. I still believe that the vast majority of people think we're talking about transsexuals, when, of course, most transsexuals agree with us on this matter, you know, and most transsexuals are outraged by how they're being lumped in with these tourists.
But people who talk about the suicide rate, etc., they know exactly what they're doing. You know, if they've got far enough to be looking up these things, they know exactly what they're doing. It's just, it's not a reasonable concern. It's not a concern I think that they actually have. It's a way of shutting people down, isn't it?
It's a way of shutting
because if you've gone so far as to dig up those numbers, you've gone so far as to see that the numbers don't work for you, and you're going to have to doctor them, you know? Yeah.
Yes.
But like the other thing about it though, and I know I've said this before, but I don't want to move too far off the Wii Spa, but the one thing I will say is that is a self-fulfilling prophecy, you know, because, you know, you're putting that idea in these people's heads, and a lot of these women, especially the women, are going to come out of this with, you know, permanent health problems. And so I believe that the suicide epidemic may be in the future. It's not current, but it might be in the future. And we really, really have to make sure that there's a lot of support for detransitioners after these fucking bastards at The Guardian and all these other places sent them down this road, you know? So
I think talking about The Guardian, I think The Guardian's response to this was utterly astonishing.
It's a disgrace.
It's a disgrace. The story that The Guardian wrote was quite amazing. I mean, it has the facts. I mean, it's obviously treating Darren as a chap. You know, he's oh no wait, no. I thought for a moment it was calling her, but no, it's not pretending that.
Oh, it avoids the whole.
Because it looks wrong now.
Yeah.
But
so they're actually going by biological pronouns now.
Yeah, we call it is Darren.
Yeah, but
anyway.
I think what they did was they tried to avoid saying he or she. I think they wrote
it's person charged with indecent exposure. That's the fucking title. Person charged with indecent exposure.
That's what I had to do on Twitter. That's what I had to do to try and keep my account on Twitter. I had to use this person all the time. Yeah. And now The Guardian has disappeared so far up its own arse that it has to write like this. Fucking brilliant. It's a great kind of...
But what is amazing about this article, and really amazing, it goes on a huge amount about, you know, it really, really, really tries. It never says, you know, look, these women are right. And right at the end, has an incredible paragraph where it quotes Luis A. Vasquez, a legal scholar at the UCLA Williams Institute and expert on LGBTQ protections, noted that there was no evidence that the passage of trans-inclusive policies for bathrooms and public spaces had led to increased safety risk or harms. In the fucking article about a sex offender exposing his semi-erect penis to women and girls, it's actually saying, but there's no harms. So it's either just like really, really, really dishonest, or it doesn't believe that this is actual harm to women and girls, that no harm has come.
Well,
it's just a penis. Because how could there not be? I mean, it's just basic logic. We live in a world full of sexual predators. There's no disputing that. We see them being convicted all the time. We see the statistics. Sexual predators are a thing that exists in the world in very large numbers, you know?
Yeah.
When you remove the barriers to women's spaces, sexual predators will take advantage of that. It's just simple basic logic. You can't just stand there and be like, well, we took away the barriers, but because there's this magic special category of people called trans, they have some magic special. Is there like a magic Harry Potter spell around the doors of all these places? Like, it doesn't make any sense, you know?
Someone just said this. Oh no, wait, where is it?
Well, that's reasonable as well.
Yeah, Schrodinger's Wang. Exactly. And the thing about Schrodinger's Wang is that if there's unlike the cat, you know, in the box, there's a rapist in the box. And the thing is, no one can be sure until they open the box what they're going to get. But the Guardian thinks that's an acceptable risk for women.
Yes. And honestly, so many times I've seen so many variations on when people try and sort of argue with me about the question I ask. I see so many variations on it's down to the individual. If an individual is behaving inappropriately in a facility, then the appropriate authorities should be called and the individual dealt with. But we know what happened in Wii Spa is if the women do try and invoke asking or complaining to the appropriate authorities, what happens? Vilification, transphobes, bigots, liars. It didn't happen. Fucking protests where women are still vilified. Women are massively vilified. Remember that woman in pink, the brave woman who was getting herded to her car? Just astonishing. This is what happens when women do try and report. This is what happens. They're not believed. And they're called all sorts of things on the internet, and it just goes insane. And so it doesn't work. It doesn't work. This after the fact doesn't work.
I just need to, exactly. I'm going to reset my router because it's getting very stuttery. I don't know if you can, or is that not coming across on your end?
It's a little stuttery, but it's fine.
It's a bit stuttery.
Okay, yes. I'm going to reset my router. I'll be back in a sec. Hold the line.
Hold the fort. Hold the fort. Yes, but I mean, honestly, some of the, I don't know what you've seen, Artie, but some of the takes I've seen have been astonishing. There was somebody, and I want to talk about it. I'm sure everyone has seen it because the screenshot went far and wide. And it's MXDE Anderson.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm caught up on the Andy Ngo piece about Wii Spa. No, I don't believe that the person involved was engaged in indecent exposure. This was a new one. I mean, I have to say, this one was a new one. It's common for trans people to have records because of how transphobia reacts to non-normative bodies. Notice her only convictions are from 2003. Oh, well, that's all right then. It's from 2003. We're all good.
And that's also not true. This person has over a dozen convictions, including burglary. Oh, I committed burglary because of transphobia? Like what?
But I think this excuse is really astonishing. I think it goes to show that, like we were saying last week, you know, there is no compromise. Nothing. There isn't, like, no one will ever say, yes, this is bad. This is where we should stop. It turns out that even when these rules or the new rules and norms have allowed a sex offender into a space with women and girls with a semi-erect penis. No, it's common for trans people to have records because of how transphobia reacts to non-normative bodies. Honestly, this is the point where you have to say, like, nothing. We just have to go back and say, no one allowed in. That's it. Women only. That's it. There's no compromise.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just so, I just find it so insane that people can't figure out how obviously stupid this is. Like, it boggles my mind. I wonder if Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, is paying attention to this and wondering if he's made a mistake, and wondering if he's already putting together some kind of political sort of self-defense plan for all the splashback he's likely to get.
Well, it's an interesting question, isn't it? Or will they just do what a lot of very prominent and very vocal trans activists are doing right now, which is to say nothing. Nothing. Owen Jones hasn't commented on it. Owen Jones had a post up, which obviously nobody can quote tweet because he's blocked us all, but he's just keeping quiet.
Apparently he deleted his tweet saying it was a hoax. So he's quietly deleted it, but he won't apologize to the women he called bigots, you know, because he's a dishonest scoundrel. I love the word scandal. I don't use it enough. Can I just say one quick thing about Guardian before we move on? Early on in this, I think one of the first reports they made about it, they had this incredible moment where I thought, well, if this isn't a sign of how far the Guardian has sunk, I don't know what is. But it said something, because they have someone in LA who's writing these utterly mendacious pieces about this issue, and the person said something along the lines of, many gender critical people have falsely argued that there will be problems with safeguarding or something, but I couldn't believe it when I saw the word falsely in there.
No, what does he have, a time machine? You're a journalist. This is not an editorial position. You can't say falsely argue that this thing will ever happen in the future. What?
I know. I mean, I'm not sure which what was the exact piece, but if you run the word false, if you do a search for the word falsely, it will pop up on anything the Guardian has written about the Wii Spa.
Why are they letting that through? Why are they letting that utter drivel through? Why are the editors not taking that out and saying this is not reported?
Their coverage of the Wii Spa,
because they've lost it now, haven't they? It's ideological now.
They're a purely ideological outfit now.
It's like everyone. They won't, no one, like anyone who's really, really invested in this, they're finding all sorts of ways to squirm around this. They're never going to condemn it. No one on that side is going to come out and say, yeah, okay, this is bad. This is bad. I haven't seen anyone say, yeah, okay, this is bad. That we should probably have some limits. Set some limits.
We should probably have a chat about it.
It's just astonishing.
But the thing is, like, if there was such a thing as journalistic fraud, I think Kath Weiner would be done for it. I think Kath Weiner should immediately resign. I mean, obviously she's not going to listen to any of us, because we're the TERFs and we don't count. But if there was any accountability in the Guardian, Kath Weiner would be out of there for basically doing. I mean, we've spent years. I remember during the days when I was, a holy warrior for the left, just outraged that Alex Jones was allowed to lie about the Newton shooting, outraged that Donald Trump was lying with every breath he took, And outraged that climate change was being denied in such a kind of obviously, again, mendacious way. And now the Guardian is doing it reflexively every time trans comes up. There was a brilliant piece by Dave Hewitt that I really recommend you read that lists all the problems with the Guardian at the moment. They're absolute ideological dead end. And one of the things they pointed out, and this is very this is something that really should worry all of us, is that the right are beginning to look sensible next to the left. The left are looking like a bunch of lying, perverted, fucking rape apologists. Whereas all the right have to do is just point at the left. They just say, look at what they're doing. They don't even have to kind of warm it up with the language they use. They just have to point at it.
Young people are seeing it. Working class people are seeing it. So many people are being alienated by the left because of its preposterous wokeness. It really is affecting people.
I have to say,
Kath Weiner is committing fraud. I think she should resign. She is an absolute disgrace, and for this appalling attack on women to happen under her watch, she has no business being an editor of a respected title like The Guardian. It's outrageous. Sorry, Hel, what were you going to say?
No, well, it's okay. I was going to talk about so Brendan O'Neill, who is often, I don't like him on lots of things, but he's written an article on Sean Fay's book, and honestly, it's so spot on. It's really well pointed out. He's just pointing out that this is the trans issue is fundamentally about control, not liberation. Fay's book confirms this, if unwittingly. It's worth reading. Because he talks about class in it. The chapter on class feels like the most defensive in the book. I think I got the impression that at some level Fay knows it's ridiculous. He argues it very, very sort of straight and well. It's worth a read. And I thought the issue about class that he brought in there was spot on. But I also wanted to say, because I've just had a quick look at my tweets, I wanted to say that I found this tweet. I hadn't seen it yesterday. I've only just seen it now, again from Laurie Penny. And she cannot believe this, right? She says, what trans people are fighting for and deserve is dignity, safety, equality, and freedom. Now, maybe this is what individual sort of trans people are fighting for, but trans activism is absolutely not fighting for this. This is not what trans activism is fighting for. They are exerting power and enjoying it. It's about power and control. There's no question on this now. But then she goes on to say, transphobes are exploiting the actions of a few and the legitimate concerns of cis women to scapegoat all trans women as paedophiles, perverts, and potential threats to children. Like, no one is doing that. I've never seen anyone do that. Like, no one has ever said, this is all trans women are paedophiles. Like, literally no one has ever said this.
The only people who says it is them. They say it.
Yes, they say that we say it. But this has never been said because nobody believes it, because we're not stupid. But she's saying, like, transphobes are exploiting the actions of a few and the legitimate concerns of cis women. The people she's talking about are these fucking women. We are the women. She's talking about us. I mean, it's insane.
But like she's a particularly dishonest person. There's an extraordinary video that we should link to in here. I'm doing a post about it as well, where she was on stage with David Starkey, and there's a great punchline to this story, by the way. And she basically is goading him by calling him a racist, you know, and presumably he said one of those posho racist things that those posh snobs, you know, which David Starkey definitely is, said. But she just goads him all through it. You know, you're racist, this is racism, blah, blah, blah. Finally, he completely loses the rag and he stands up and he reveals that he was going to do a debate with Penny and they couldn't do it because Penny charged too much money. So basically, he was going to do it for free and Penny charged so much money, they had to call it off. So this is who they're up against. You know, she's just a dishonest, preening, greedy troll. And
I don't even care if she's greedy, but I do care about the dishonesty because it matters. This sort of, I mean, she's got hundreds of thousands of followers, and people want to hear this. They want to hear that the people who are arguing against this are horrible and unpleasant, and this is what they're saying. It's a lie. It's a complete and utter lie.
But here's the punchline, Helen.
You hadn't come to it. Sorry.
Yeah, Starkey, when he said his vaguely offensive statements, he was talking about a particular group of people. He was talking about the Rotherham groomers. You know, he was talking about the Rotherham gang who raped and groomed young girls for 30 years. Would it be one of the biggest safeguarding failures of all time? And it was entirely due to the left being scared of looking rude.
Yeah.
Now, does that remind you of anything? You know? So every time there's a safeguarding question, Laurie Penny is there trying to distract and trying to move the attention onto someone she doesn't like. You know? She's an absolute disgrace. Her, Kath Weiner, Owen Jones, they're traitors. They're traitors to women. And I hope that when all this is over, they're just never interviewed again. I don't ever want to see these people on my TV again. They are, you know, the most, sorry, I'm going to turn Shakespearean, villainous. They're the most villainous people. They know what they're doing. They know what they're doing.
Yes, but there are so many, like Owen Jones. He's, you know, where is he? He should absolutely be standing up and saying, yes, I was wrong. I was wrong to tweet out that this was a lie. It wasn't a lie. And actually, these women have a point. But he's never going to do it because he's fundamentally dishonest in this fight. It's just about a win for him. It's about followers. It's about making money on his podcast. It's not about fairness for all at all. If he truly believed in equality for everyone, he would look at women now and say, yeah, all right, that's fair enough.
Fair enough, yeah.
You know? you made a good point here, and you were right. Like, we were entirely right, because and it's not a coincidence that we're right. We're right because it was obvious. It's obvious from the start that letting men into women's spaces is a problem for women. Like, you can try and pretend that it isn't as much as you like, but obviously it is, because that's why we've never let them in.
Yeah.
So someone says, Pam Smith in the comments says, Owen is terrified of ending up on the wrong side of history. But the thing is, he is ending up on the wrong side of history. And today has been another step forward in that direction for him, which I think is why he's keeping silent about it. I think the footing is falling so fast for that side. You know, that great piece I want to mention again, if you haven't seen the Times, great big Saturday interview with Graham Linehan in today's Times. Really great piece, Graham. I thought it was wonderful. I thought you came off excellently. I thought the piece was really, really great. So that's a huge win for our side, and a huge win for you personally, Graham. This is every day. And then the Wii Spa incident is just showing how utterly mad the remaining activists who haven't, you know, the ones who aren't realizing that they better keep their mouths shut because they've been wrong this whole time. The ones who are still talking just sound like lunatics.
And
but the problem is with this idea of history, isn't it? Is that history is written by the victors, and so what Owen Jones now wants to do is make sure that he is on the right side of history, simply by sort of pushing the tide this way,
pretending it didn't. Yeah, no, exactly. That's very true. I think a lot of these people have made such fools of themselves that all they can do is put their shoulder to the wheel and try and make these things true. Yeah. The Guardian's disgraceful piece after the guy was arrested is a great example. Yeah. He was a sex offender, but it doesn't matter. Trans people, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know. It's so desperate. It's so desperate. I just want to say a quick thing about someone who actually seems to be behaving quite well is the actress Patricia Arquette, who deleted her tweets calling it a hoax. And actually, I think, corrected someone who said it was a hoax, said, no, it's being reported that it's not a hoax. So there's someone, you know, who my respect has gone up for a little bit, because she's obviously someone who can change her mind when new information comes in, you know. Actually, there's an interesting thing about films. Let me move over to my old life as a writer. There's a thing about a hero in a film, and the hero and the villain are often you'll see it a lot in films where the villain goes, "We're not so very different, you and I," you know. And the villain, the hero and the villain in a film have the same problem, right? Let's say they can't get close to people, or they can't trust people, or whatever it is. But the hero becomes the hero by being able to change throughout the film. The villain never changes. Never changes. The villain just stands rock still, and everything that happens, he just kind of resists until at the end he's thrown off a skyscraper or something. Now, that's what Owen Jones is. Owen Jones is just someone who he just cannot change, and as a result, I don't know. I do think he's going to go down as one of the villains in all this. You know?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You know? And there's definitely been others. There's obviously trolls all the way up and down this fight, but it's the ones who should have known better. They're the ones that I'm going to enjoy getting into TV studios with in the future. You know, because like they're the ones who really are going to have to own up to what they did to women during this time.
But already Owen Jones is, you know, a lot of people can see him for what he is. And no matter what he does, no matter what win happens, or if anything changes, we've already seen it. You know, I will never have any respect for Owen Jones, because the way he presents his arguments, how he makes his points, what points he makes, how he blocks people, it's intellectually dishonest.
Yeah,
and we've already seen it. You know, even if we end up losing, we've already seen it.
Yeah. He has no integrity at all. Another person who, sorry, Artie, the last thing I'll say, I just want to talk about one other person who, you know, sometimes people are nervous about the way I talk about Gamergate, because, you know, as time has gone on, I wonder whether there were more factors at play than I realized, you know. And one of them is Anita Sarkeesian. Anita Sarkeesian during Gamergate was a massive target. And I was I was always looking, out for her, trying to amplify the abuse she was getting to try and stop it, the way I like to do, And Sarkeesian is doing this. Sarkeesian's been calling it a hoax, been kind of, I think even, I could be wrong, but subsequent to the discovery has been defending this guy. And Sarkeesian is a great example of why I'm suddenly not as sure I was always on the right tack. No one should face abuse, especially women online, They should be allowed to express themselves without getting death and rape threats and all that sort of stuff. But it worries me that I supported someone who's so easy with women getting that kind of abuse, the women she disagrees with. So Anita Sarkeesian's tweet was really disgraceful. I thought I had it up, but I can't find it. There's a brilliant another one, a great one. Evan Urquhart. Do you know this guy?
Evan Urquhart, yeah.
Evan Urquhart, yes. I was blocked.
Female,
I was blocked immediately on replying.
Really?
Evan Urquhart's female, by the way, but yeah.
Okay. Well, here's the headline from Slate: Violence over a transphobic hoax shows the danger of underestimating anti-trans hate. And then a recent tweet by Evan. Anyone who follows me or who read my piece will know that I've never said the video that caused the riots was a hoax. I've said I thought it was more likely a hoax than not. So I know you don't get to pick your headlines, but my God, that's a fucking really off headline for a piece that said it wasn't a hoax, And Zinnia Jones, whose career involves, who got a blue tick on Twitter because he sticks things up his arse for money online. It's just hilarious.
And encourages children to buy drugs on the black market.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Let me lay it out for you. I asked anyone to identify the alleged trans woman or provide evidence that crime is committed, as neither had been shown at all. Both of those conditions have now been met very thoroughly as of the NY Post piece. And then the next tweet, I said it's probably nothing because it's almost always not something like this.
If this didn't happen, it would have happened. And you know what? It has happened before. That's the other thing. The Wii Spa incident isn't the only time. It happens all the time. This one went viral because of the video and because of the astonishing nature of the video, but it happens all the time. I've been hearing about it for years here in Toronto. YWCAs, women's gyms, men are in locker rooms just walking around naked and women don't want to go to them anymore. The very same guy, Darren, there was already a police bulletin about how he frequently, since 2018, they were saying this is a man who poses as a woman, claims to be a woman so that he can get into women's locker rooms and changing areas. This has been, this one man alone has been doing this for years, all over, up and down Los Angeles County. And then, this happens all the fucking time. So these people who say, it just never happens, it's not even just the one time, because they're going to switch their tune and say, okay, it happened this one time. We have to make sure they know it happens all the fucking time.
But also, it's just occurred to me when people say, well, since when has a man had to pose as a woman in order to expose himself to women and girls? Well, they don't have to, but it turns out that it works.
Yeah. Turns out posing as a woman doesn't really mean much of anything anymore. You just say, oh, I'm a woman.
You just say, no, this is a woman's semi-erect penis.
Yeah,
and someone just made a very good suggestion there. If anyone is subjected to flashing and that type of thing in places like this, as safely as you can, get some evidence. Get it out there, because if the Wii Spa thing, if that woman hadn't gone down and fucking tore the
she was brave. That's it. She was simply a brave woman who was
principles. She stuck to principles
and was prepared to put up with shit that she knew might come her way. Or it's possible that she was oblivious to the whole thing and just was actually just outraged because she thought, wow, this is wrong.
Yeah.
And it's possible that she hadn't sort of been part of the gender identity debate and was simply like, no, I'm not putting up with this.
Yeah. Exactly. All of us have the same kind of history in a way, don't we? It's always like, well, as soon as they find out X, then people will agree with me, and we're never right. Like as I said before, when I started telling people that young girls were having double mastectomies and wearing binders, I thought they'd be like, what? We have to stop this. We have to do something about this. This is self-harm. This is internalized misogyny. Where do we sign up? But of course, I didn't get that at all. I got a complete kind of, well, that's, the kids are, they're just kids. Let them have their fun.
It's so difficult because when you don't see it, there are all these things you can do to yourself to justify these things. Like the compassion for the LGBT and for the rainbow can really gloss over a lot for a lot of people. A lot of people are willing to watch children have their bodies, healthy body parts amputated because they sincerely believe, that this is because these are suffering LGBTs. They'll let themselves convince themselves of so much. It's really quite astonishing. And this is a really difficult issue to unpack because we're dealing with things like language and word games, still how the word trans means anyone who says they're trans, and people talk about it like it's a useful category of people. This is a difficult thing to explain to people, Yeah,
it's about, and again, that brings us back to where we were early on, Artie, in talking about the way trans simply means something different to every single person who says it or hears it.
Yeah.
So it's impossible to talk about without, and like when some people say trans, they think of their lovely gender non-conforming friend who's decided that that's the label they want to put on themselves, But like a lot of people, like trans widows, for example, they hear the word trans and they think of terrifying AGP porn addicted lunatics. These are all very different categories of people, and they need very different types of solutions.
Yes, I agree. Agreed.
And even things like for the people who have been some of the most passionate trans activists will say things like, "Oh, transvestite, that's not transgender. That's different." It's like, where have you been? Actually, transgender is an umbrella term that absolutely encapsulates transvestites, even part-time cross-dressers. So nobody agrees. Yeah,
certainly amongst the men, the transvestites completely outnumber the transsexuals.
And they have to be included in the transgender because those are the ones who are all being killed. They're called travesti, which is the Portuguese word for transvestite. And all the statistics of homicides, these are gay, male, cross-dressing transvestite prostitutes in South America, in Colombia and Brazil. And they call themselves transvestites. That is the word that they call themselves. So if you don't include transvestites as transgender or just trans, which is even more amorphous of a term, then you lose all of your ability to say, look how much vulnerability and suffering there is within our community.
Absolutely right. Another thing I'm always saying to people who I speak to about this subject is that, transsexuals, people who suffer from gender dysphoria, to such an extent that they feel that they have to go through incredibly invasive and life-changing procedures, need a quality of help that's very different from the kids dressed up as toddlers who are at the Holyrood counter protest. These are like middle class kids who basically have no fucking good music to dance to. So they've taken the youth culture off the internet, and it's grim. It's grim. It's all My Little Ponies on fucking children's presenter dungarees, and it's not nothing to do with transsexuals. It's got nothing to do with people who are suffering from dysphoria.
No. What does a white middle class guy who has a little bit of a kink for cross-dressing have anything to do with a butch lesbian with severe dysphoria or a black gay impoverished male street-walking prostitute who has to cross-dress to survive? There's nothing in common with each other whatsoever. That word trans is not a useful category of people. The only kinds of people who are trying to say it is are the ones who are completely narcissistic and middle class, who are trying to make themselves trying to shroud themselves in the virtue and the tragedy of the suffering of other groups of people who are going through really hard times.
Did I mention about the counter protest? Was I talking about that on Wednesday? Can't remember.
No, I don't think so.
Well, I was looking over at the flags, and they had the trans flag, and I couldn't help noticing again how revealing the trans flag is. Pink and blue.
Yeah. And not just pink and blue, but baby pink and baby blue.
Baby blue.
Like powder blue. It's really it's
conservative,
aggressive. Yeah.
It's aggressive.
Yeah. it's horrible. It's quite concerning, I think. It
really is.
Childish.
And also the other flag.
It's like gender reveal parties being celebrated. Everybody knows gender reveal parties are gross and disgusting. Now they're like, actually, we're the latest front of civil rights. Like, no.
Yeah. But like the other flag was the famous one, which is which I really hope people win back at some point and drive it back, which is the trans arrow forcing itself into the rainbow and just kind of coming in from the side like this. Is this no, I can't do it. I can't do it the right way, but it's like
you can't act it.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm acting a flag. Look,
it's a wedge.
I'll do this is France. No, but like.
Oh no, that's a really good point. It's a wedge, isn't it? It's a wedge just dividing. It's so rainbow. Divisive. It is. You're right, because it is such a divisive issue, isn't it?
Yeah. One of the first things
that flag is really taken off.
Put it on a flag.
One of the first things that could be done, when all this is over, if there's any way of doing this, but get the rainbow flag back, reclaim the rainbow flag, make it a rainbow flag. Because the whole fucking point of the rainbow flag is that it already includes everyone. It includes everyone.
Spectrum. The rainbow. It's all the colors. It's everything. Yeah.
Exactly. It's just insane. And but it's not good enough for trans rights activists because nothing ever is.
No, but it's also not good enough. Now that to be pro-gay is not a progressive position, it's the default central position, it's the centrist position. Everybody needs to be more progressive, so they need to be more right. So they have to take the flag that already encapsulates everything. They can't just say, okay, it's okay to be in the middle now because everything has shifted. The left has shifted so that it's in the middle now. No. We have to still be left of the middle, so we have to take our flag and make it more.
Yes, but this is Owen Johnson's problem, isn't it? As we've said before, he has to be the leftiest of lefts. He's sort of built his reputation on being the leftiest of all. Leftiest of all leftists. And so he has to just carry on taking it further and further. Otherwise, he's no longer the leftiest of all leftists. And then who is he?
Yeah. And then everyone, he's in a field of people who are all running past each other to be more left than everyone else. It's a purity spiral. They're going to end up way the hell out in the middle of the ocean.
He's been unusual though. I noticed his friends like Bastani and all that bunch. They don't weigh in on this as much as he does. I think I think they know that. Oh, I better be a little bit careful here. But he doesn't have that self-protection thing. And he's just he's digging a hole to the center of the earth. And I don't think anything's going to stop him. I mean, he's deleted the tweets, but does that mean anything? You'll just find another way of calling women bigots again, and it'll all start again.
Oh, can I say I wanted to mention something about this Brendan O'Neill article, right? Brendan O'Neill, he is saying, "I've long disliked the word mansplaining. It just doesn't flow, but I think I now know what it means." It's perfectly understandable that many feminist writers and campaigners see the trans movement as a woke facade that born males can hide behind as they engage in that age-old practice of telling women that they are wrong and silly. Yeah. So this is Brendan O'Neill who is saying this. Yeah, I finally get what mansplaining is.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just like Douglas Murray saying, I finally get feminists now. Like, all these right-wing people are like, oh my God, I get it now. The women were right.
One thing I like about this is that it's kind of it's turning a lot of right wingers into feminists. They're kind of realizing, it's this idea that the right are aligned with the
feminists are aligned with the right wing, but it isn't. It's just the right wing, and I'm thinking actually
women are getting a bit of a hard time from these lunatics. Do you know what I mean? I mean, that it was like that Laurie Penny versus David Starkey thing, Like who would have thought you would feel sympathy for David Starkey? But Laurie Penny manages it because she's such an obvious spoilt brat, just a spoilt, like again, money hungry, greedy, dishonest person. And
we know that, as Artie was saying earlier, it is quite a privileged movement in a lot of ways, isn't it? Yeah. There are huge problems with a lot of poverty and homelessness, especially in other countries. But in this country, certainly trans activism, it's a very privileged position to take, isn't it? Oh, yeah. Just this idea that we can control We can control how others see us. We can control their language and how they talk about us, or talk about us when we're not even there.
Yeah. Well, the thing about politics, the thing about what you believe and who you are, it's not about what you say, it's about what you do in the end. You know, there's a great rule in writing: show, don't tell. You know, so if you can have a character saying, well, I'm very kind to animals, and then in the next shot you see him kicking a cat, you know that he's not telling the truth, right? You know that he's not kind to animals. That's what's going on at the moment. You got a bunch of people, and they like this guy. There's a guy in the comments feeling fine, like this bloke. I bet you this is a middle class guy as well. But like they talk of equality and equity and all these types of things, but they don't do anything about it. They all, you know, I just saw all the photographs of Owen Jones on holiday with all his privileged mates, you know, and it's like, you know, what are you doing? What are you doing to help people? The only thing Owen Jones did over the last few years that made a significant difference in people's lives was that he helped lose safe seats in the North to the Conservative Party, because he and his idiot mates, his idiot privileged luxury belief mates, have alienated huge swathes of the country, you know. So anyway, sorry, I'm a bit ranty. I'm tired as well, you know. This morning I woke up and I thought, I wish I had fucking organized this thing. The week was just...
But now you're really happy to be here chatting with us.
It's always lovely to see you. It always wakes me up, you know. But like it was a bit of a long week, and yesterday the trip back, despite it only being an hour from Edinburgh Airport to Norwich, oh boy, I really felt it yesterday, you know. So I think I'm going to take some days off turfing for a few days and relax. But I will say, sorry, very, very last thing on Holyrood. It was very reassuring in the sense that the Marion Miller court protest, after which I spoke to you, that was a bit depressing and sad in a way, even though the support was great, because it's just awful that Marion is going through this, you know.
Yes.
But the Holyrood thing, which I've been calling Holyrood in everything I've written about it, like a fucking idiot, was absolutely just inspiring and exciting, and it felt like a real movement. It felt like a real change. There were loads of men there, which I thought was a good thing to see, because it won't be won with just women alone, because for some reason women are easily able to are being easier bullied, you know, easier silenced and ignored, but men are a little bit harder. It's a little bit hard to do. But
it's also harder because it looks like less of a niche issue, doesn't it? Because women are easily dismissed as, oh well, it's just a bunch of man-hating feminists. So it's not even about sort of bullying. It's about strength of numbers. It's about seeing a cross section of a demographic and thinking, okay, look, it's not just a small group of people who care about this. There's a lot of people. So visually, I think it shows people that, you know, it matters.
And also lots of young women there, which was really,
again, same thing.
I genuinely think it's skipped a generation. I think you've got all these kind of millennial handmaidens, you know, the Sue Pascoes and Carrie Lloyds of the world, and beneath them, this new generation that's coming up that's just not having it. And they're going to be
in some way, everyone needs something to rebel against, don't they? So you've got, you know, you've got people rebelling, but actually we're you know, even those 30-year-olds who were rebelling against the 50-year-olds have now got sort of 16 or 17-year-olds saying, no. No, if a grown-up is telling me, if like an old grown-up, because they can't tell the difference between 30 and 50, if an old grown-up is saying it, then I'm going to be contrary to it. And then they look into it and then they think, actually, this isn't right, because it isn't right. Honestly, anyone who can defend, anyone who can say, because this brings us back full circle, doesn't it? Anyone who can say, who can defend the right for a sex predator, an actual convicted sex predator, to be able to expose his penis in a space meant for women and girls, then this is not a movement. This is a movement where people are going to say, yeah, no, this is wrong. Like anyone who comes up cold against it is going to say, well, no, this is obviously wrong. People who are in it, who have actually, people who need to double down are different. But anyone who hasn't actually seen it are going to say, of course not, obviously not. This is insane. Yeah.
I think that's actually a great place to leave it, because we've kind of come full circle. So so maybe we should do that rather than bouncing it on anymore. That was really great to talk about. Oh, sorry, the last thing I just wanted to quickly say on it, just an idea, might be worth doing, but send Wispa Bars to people who are denying it, lying about it. Send Kath Viner a Wispa, or even just the rapper, if you don't want to waste
it. Or Owen Jones.
Or Owen Jones.
Yeah, Owen Jones.
Use the Guardian address. Also, Wispa
but not anyone who will take you to court over it.
Yes. But like the other, I mean, the last thing I want to say about this whole thing is that it's very useful sometimes when you can take a whole movement's problems and reduce it to one word, and that word is Wispa.
Yes.
Which is sad news for Cadbury's, but good news for the movement, because I think there's nothing that's going to shut people up more than this story. It's an extraordinary moment. Thank you so much, guys. Always lovely to see you. I will see you Wednesday. Yeah, hopefully.
See you Wednesday.
So yeah, bye everyone. Bye in the comments.
Bye.
Thanks for everything.
Thanks, commenters.
Bye.